These are pieces of a story. They are pieces of a symbol, of Pennsylvania, of the achievement of Pennsylvania people at work. It was a big time for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania represented to the nation and the world the might of coal, the might of steel. And Pennsylvania's might was also its railroads. Its grandest railroad was the Pennsy. As the biggest and the best, the Pennsylvania Railroad moved 5,000 trains each day over 26,000 miles of track. The Pennsy was the standard railroad of the world and the world's largest corporation. Altoona was the city the Pennsy created, the city it needed. From farm fields to 75,000 people in 75 years. Here were the principal workshops of the entire Pennsylvania Railroad system. In these shops and yards, 17,000 Altoona workers went to work each day to build and repair thousands of Pennsy steam locomotives, electric locomotives, freight cars, and passenger cars. They constantly tested and improved the parts and performance of every aspect of building and running the Pennsylvania Railroad. Railroad experts came from around the world to see how Altoona did it. And from Altoona drawing boards and shops came one of the best steam locomotives in the world, the K4s. A passenger locomotive, first built in 1914, the K4 was the pride of Altoona and the Pennsy. For speed, for power, for reliability, it was a real thoroughbred. 425 were built. They pulled everything from milk trains to expresses ridden by senators and movie stars to the 515 commuter local. They could go 100 miles an hour. They saw us through 3 wars, and many K4s put in more than 40 years of service. But in the 1940s and 50s, diesel-electric locomotives arrived. The days of steam in the K4 were being replaced with something more modern, efficient, cleaner. The days of those shop workers who built and maintained steam engines were ending. Hundreds of blacksmiths, boilermakers, riveters, machine operators. They retired or they moved on. The era of steam had passed. In the 1950s, 65,000 steam engines were cut up and melted down. But a few steamers were saved as monuments, curiosities, reminders. The Pennsy gave one K4, number 1361, to the city of Altoona to put on display up at famed Horseshoe Curve. The ever-evolving diesels passed by 1361 day and night, as other forces and events caused the once mighty Pennsylvania Railroad to falter and fade into a merger with its arch-rival, the New York Central. It was a brief failure of a marriage as the Penn Central. In the aftermath of that failure, Conrail was formed. The once great Pennsy was history. But the people of Altoona didn't want their community or their state or the world to forget the greatness of achievement of their parents' and grandparents' work for the Pennsylvania Railroad. In 1980, Altoona citizens built their first Altoona Railroaders Memorial Museum to honor their proud past. It was truly a grassroots effort. In 1985, Altoona citizens organized the rescue of the deteriorating K4 1361 from its lonely vigil at Horseshoe Curve. Slowly and carefully, it was eased down the mountain to the city where it had been born back in 1918. Museum volunteers and skilled technicians worked to restore the locomotive to be a living, smoking, whistling symbol of Altoona's and Pennsylvania's great and gritty brawn. She was fired up, and she made a few exploratory excursion runs. Although public response to 1361 was overwhelmingly enthusiastic, it was but a brief return to life. Mechanical problems forced her back to the shops. Meanwhile, the museum embarked on an ambitious expansion program to refurbish the four-story Pennsylvania Railroad Master Mechanics building and turn it into a truly world-class interpretive railroad museum. Focusing on the visitor experience, it houses a host of dramatic and informative exhibits and multimedia attractions, as well as an archive and library. The new museum is enjoying national and international acclaim and is a cornerstone of Pennsylvania heritage tourism. The museum helps to bring a $5 million economic impact to the region annually. Now, the museum is preparing to make K4 number 1361 a permanent and dynamic part of the visitor experience. This priceless artifact and symbol is undergoing a complete restoration and reconstruction. In partnership with the National Park Service's Steamtown National Historic Site and the University of Scranton, the museum has committed to long-term preservation of 1361 to give the state, the nation, and the world a chance to see firsthand the power and glory of Altoona steam, Pennsylvania steam, alive again. Steamtown's locomotive shop has started the work. It's an exhaustive structural and functional restoration process, demanding knowledge, skill, and patience. Of course, there is much more to do. It is a monumental effort. Completed restoration and the return of 1361 to Altoona will be an achievement, but also a challenge. The challenge is to provide for the continuing preservation, operation, and interpretation of 1361 as a centerpiece for tourism and education at the Altoona Railroaders Museum. Significant underwriting is urgently needed for specific, highly visible, and crucial projects to allow this locomotive to thrill and inform millions of visitors. A permanent and historically appropriate locomotive shed must be funded and built in order to protect this important artifact and investment. New tracks and switching must be funded, designed, and constructed at the museum. Continuing motion picture documentation of 1361's restoration process needs to be funded. And the production of a new companion theater film to join the museum's award-winning Altoona at Work, an Era of Steam, seeks underwriting. The new film will weave the history, restoration, and return of 1361 into the romance and drama of the K4 legend and the legends of the other great locomotives produced in Altoona shops for the Pennsylvania Railroad.
Slow up, a little bit half inch. Oh, right there, Jeff.
What's really hanging in the balance here is our connection to what made us great in one of the most important periods of Pennsylvania's proud industrial history. With skill and experience, we knew how to make things work and last. We can do that again. Here and across the nation, we see that people want to be in touch with our rich industrial past. There's a recognized, well-documented thirst for it. There's an economic development opportunity in heritage tourism being demonstrated nationwide. What has to happen to realize this opportunity? We need your continuing investment in this important and symbolic enterprise. We are striving to bring this locomotive back, to operate, to interpret the story of Altoona, Railroad City, USA, as a dynamic attraction. The K4 is our official state steam locomotive. It and others ran almost everywhere in Pennsylvania. It's a universal symbol of our railroading heritage. What we seek is the opportunity to allow many thousands of Pennsylvanians, Americans, and international visitors to experience the smoke, the steam, and the drama. We can't rebuild the mighty steel mills. We can't reopen the deep coal mines. But with help, with your help, we can bring a priceless Pennsylvania-built steam locomotive back to life.